A secret government experiment made me the perfect girl. I always felt like something was missing, like I was playing a role in someone else's story, waiting for my real life to begin. To the world, I was Ethan Carter, a 24-year-old guy stuck in a job that barely paid rent, living in an apartment that smelled like old coffee and missed opportunities. I spent my days in a tiny cubicle, staring at flickering computer screens, fixing problems for people who barely remember my name. It wasn't a bad life, but it wasn't my life. At least, not the one I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted, not exactly. All I knew was that something inside me didn't fit. Like an itch just beneath the skin, a whisper I couldn't quite make out. I never spoke about it. I kept my head down, laughed at the right jokes, and nodded at the right times. No one ever looked at me twice, and that was fine.
It was safer that way.
But in the quiet moments, alone in my apartment, lying awake at night, I let myself wonder. What if I could start over? What if I could be someone else? Someone who felt right? The thought terrified me as much as it thrilled me. I buried it the way I always had. Then one evening, after another mind-numbing day at work, I opened my laptop and found an email waiting for me. Participants needed for advanced medical research, generous compensation. Normally, I would have deleted something like that without a second thought. It screamed scam. But that night, something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the boredom. Maybe it was the nagging feeling that I was meant for something more. Or maybe, deep down, I was just desperate for a change. So I clicked. And in that single moment, I set off a chain of events that would change my life forever. The research facility was nothing like I expected. When I signed up for the experiment, I pictured a shady, dimly lit lab, run by men in wrinkled lab coats muttering about science fiction nonsense. Instead, the place was sleek and clinical, like something out of a high-budget sci-fi movie. Bright white walls, advanced-looking machines humming softly in the background, and researchers who spoke in calm, professional tones. A woman in a fitted black suit greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Ethan Carter?" she asked, flipping through a tablet. Yeah, that's me." She gave a small nod, then gestured for me to follow her. "Come with me. Dr. Lancaster will explain everything." I hesitated for half a second. This was crazy, right? What kind of medical research required total secrecy, an NDA thicker than a novel, and a signing bonus large enough to cover 6 months of rent? But something inside me, curiosity, desperation, maybe both, kept me moving forward. Dr. Lancaster, a tall, graying man with piercing blue eyes, studied me from behind his desk. "You understand that this experiment is highly classified?" His voice was smooth, almost hypnotic. "If you agree to participate, there is no turning back." I swallowed. What exactly is the experiment? Dr. Lancaster leaned forward, folding his hands together. "We are testing an advanced genetic and biochemical process that can completely reconstruct the human body on a cellular level. Think of it as a rebirth." I blinked. "You mean like plastic surgery or something?" His lips twitched in something resembling amusement. "Far more advanced than that. This is full-body reconstruction. A chance to become someone new." My heart pounded. The idea was absurd. Impossible. But a small, reckless part of me, the part that had always dreamed of change but never dared to reach for it, whispered, "What if it's real?" Dr. Lancaster's gaze sharpened, as if he could see the war raging inside me. "Tell me, Ethan," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "If you could wake up tomorrow as the person you were meant to be, would you take that chance?" I didn't even have to think. Yes. And just like that, my fate was sealed. The moment I signed my name on the dotted line, reality hit me like a freight train. What had I just agreed to? Dr. Lancaster and his team wasted no time. Within an hour, I was taken to a high-tech medical wing, fitted with electrodes and prepped for Phase 1. My stomach twisted with nerves as a nurse inserted N4 into my arm. A strange, blue-tinted serum flowed into my veins, sending a cool sensation rushing through my body. "This is your last chance to back out," Dr. Lancaster said, his voice calm but firm. I hesitated, gripping the sheets beneath me. Was this a mistake? Was I about to destroy the only version of myself I'd ever known? But that version of me had always felt incomplete, like a puzzle with missing pieces. I took a deep breath. Do it. A mask was placed over my mouth and nose, and within seconds, darkness swallowed me whole. When I woke up, everything felt wrong. My body was sore, my limbs felt lighter, and my skin was hypersensitive, like every nerve had been rewired. My head throbbed, and my chest. I sat up sharply, gasping. Something was different. The weight on my chest, the way my waist curved inward, the absence of roughness on my skin. My hands trembled as I reached up to touch my face. My jawline was softer, my lips fuller. A mirror was mounted on the opposite wall. Slowly, cautiously, I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood on shaky feet. Every movement felt foreign yet strangely natural. I took my first step toward the mirror, then another. The closer I got, the harder my heart pounded. And then I saw her. Long, dark lashes. Wide, expressive eyes. A delicate, feminine jawline. Shoulder-length hair, sleek and glossy. I lifted my hand. She lifted hers. The girl in the mirror was me. A sharp inhale sounded behind me. I turned, my pulse racing, to find a woman standing in the doorway. She had auburn hair tied in a sleek ponytail and wore a fitted lab coat over a smart blouse. She smiled. Welcome back, Evelyn. The name sent a shiver down my spine. I swallowed hard. Evelyn. That's what was on your application, she said. It felt fitting. Evelyn. I let the name settle in my mind, rolling over it like a smooth stone in my palm. It was foreign, unfamiliar. Yet something about it felt right. The woman, Dr. Harper, as she introduced herself, was different from the others. Less clinical. More understanding. She walked me through the next steps. Physical therapy to adjust to my new body, psychological assessments to help with the transition, and most importantly, time. Time to learn who I was now. The first week was the hardest. My body, though undeniably mine, felt strange. I had to relearn my own movements, my balance, even the way I spoke. My voice was softer, lighter. Every word felt like an introduction to someone new. And the emotions, they came in waves. At night, I'd sit in my room, staring at my reflection, questioning everything. Had I made a mistake? Had I lost myself? Or had I finally found what had been missing all along? Dr. Harper checked on me often, offering encouragement when doubt crept in. Transitions are never easy, she said one evening as we sat across from each other in the facility's lounge. But from what I see, you're thriving, Evelyn. I let out a nervous laugh. I don't know about that. Half the time, I don't even recognize myself. Maybe that's the point, she said gently. Maybe you're finally seeing the real you. Her words clung to me long after she left. Little by little, I adjusted. I started walking with more confidence, learning how to move in a way that felt natural. I experimented with clothing. At first, simple things like soft sweaters and fitted jeans. Then dresses. Makeup. I had never felt so alive. There were moments of doubt, of course. Moments where I panicked, wondering if I had lost something I could never get back. But every time I looked in the mirror, every time I saw Evelyn staring back at me, the fear faded just a little more. Because for the first time in my life, I felt right. Adjusting to my new body had been hard. But facing the world as Evelyn? That was terrifying. The facility had been my safety net, an environment where everyone knew who I was and why I was there. But stepping outside, beyond those walls, meant something entirely different. It meant confronting reality. And reality wasn't always kind. Dr. Harper stood beside me as I stared at the glass doors leading out of the facility. My reflection stared back, clad in a casual blouse and fitted jeans. I looked like any other young woman, but inside, I was anything but confident. You're ready for this, she said. I swallowed hard. What if people can tell? She smiled gently. And what if they don't? That question lingered as I took my first step outside. The first test was simple, a coffee shop. A public space, but not too crowded. I took slow, careful steps toward the counter, heart pounding as I approached the barista. "Hi, what can I get for you?" she chirped, eyes scanning me without a hint of suspicion. My voice caught. I quickly cleared my throat. "A caramel latte, please." I waited, tense, for a reaction.
A pause.
A flicker of doubt in her eyes. Nothing. She nodded, punched in my order, and smiled. "That'll be $4. I exhaled, fumbling for my wallet. The interaction had lasted mere seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. One small victory. But not all of them would come so easily. The first real challenge came when I ventured beyond the controlled outings arranged by Dr. Harper. I wanted to test myself, to see if I could navigate the world alone. I took a deep breath and stepped into a clothing store, browsing through racks of dresses. It was exhilarating to run my fingers over soft fabrics, to imagine myself wearing them. Not in secret, not in shame, but because they belonged to me. Then I heard it. A whisper. A snicker. Two teenage boys near the shoe section were watching me, muttering between themselves. One nudged the other, grinning. "Is that a dude?" one of them murmured, not even bothering to lower his voice. I spread through my veins. My hands clenched into fists. My mind screamed at me to run, to disappear before their words cut deeper. Instead, I forced myself to stand tall. I grabbed the dress I had been eyeing and walked straight to the register. Let them talk. Let them laugh. They didn't know me. They didn't define me. Underscore 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 underscore. But even when strangers weren't the problem, my own reflection could be. Some nights, I stared in the mirror, searching for remnants of the boy I used to be. I traced my jawline, softer than before. Ran my fingers through my hair, longer now. But my eyes? They were the same. And sometimes, I wasn't sure if that was comforting or unsettling. Was I really Evelyn? Or was I just pretending? Dr. Harper saw the doubt creeping back in. She sat me down one evening, her gaze steady and knowing. "You're struggling." I let out a bitter laugh. "Is it that obvious?" "It's normal." She leaned forward. "Transformation isn't just about the body. It's about the mind. And the mind takes time to catch up." I hesitated. What if I never fully feel complete? She reached out, taking my hands. "Then we keep going until you do." And that was the moment I realized this wasn't a single step. It was a journey, one I was still learning how to walk. But I wasn't walking it alone. The first time I truly saw her, the real me, was on a quiet evening in my apartment. The mirror had been my greatest enemy for months. Some days, I could stand in front of it and see progress. Softer features, delicate curves, the way my body had reshaped itself under the careful guidance of science. But other days, I could only see the ghost of who I used to be, lingering beneath my skin like a shadow I couldn't outrun. But that night was different. I had just finished getting ready for an outing, my first one without Dr. Harper's supervision. I'd picked a wine-colored dress that hugged my waist and flared at the hips, paired with sleek black heels that added just the right amount of height. My makeup was light, natural, but enough to enhance the softness of my features. I took a deep breath and stepped in front of the mirror. For the first time, I didn't see a boy trying to be something he wasn't. I didn't see an imposter. I saw Evelyn. I reached out, fingertips brushing against my reflection as if to prove she was real. A slow, trembling smile spread across my lips, and this time, I didn't doubt it. I felt it. I was her. I had always been her. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Ava, one of the first friends I had made since stepping into this new life. She had been nothing but supportive, guiding me through the unspoken rules of womanhood with patience and kindness. When I opened the door, her reaction was instant. "Oh my God," she whispered, eyes wide with admiration. "You look incredible." Heat flushed my cheeks. "You really think so?" "I know so." She grinned, reaching out to adjust a loose curl framing my face. "You're glowing. And not just because of the makeup. You own this now, don't you?" I swallowed the lump in my throat, emotions bubbling up too fast to contain. "Yeah," I murmured. "I think I finally do." Ava grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. "Then let's go show the world." As I stepped out into the night, heels clicking confidently against the pavement, I felt something I hadn't in a long, long time. Not fear. Not doubt. Freedom. The moment I had been dreading was finally here. The research facility, the place where I had been remade, reshaped into Evelyn, had summoned me back for a final evaluation. Dr. Harper's voice had been cryptic over the phone, but I knew what this was really about. The government wanted to assess their experiment, to decide whether I was a success or a failure. And if I was a failure, what then? The fear clawed at my throat as I stepped into the cold, sterile room, facing a panel of men and women in suits. Their gazes were sharp, clinical, as if I were nothing more than a test subject. Maybe that's all I had ever been to them. Dr. Harper stood at my side, her presence the only thing grounding me. "Are you ready?" she murmured. I took a deep breath. No more fear. No more doubt. Yes. A man at the center of the panel adjusted his glasses. "Evelyn, you were once an ordinary young man, but thanks to this experiment, you've been given the opportunity to live as a completely different person. Now, we need to determine whether the transformation is truly complete." He folded his hands. "So tell us, who are you?" The question sent a shockwave through me. For months, I had battled with my identity, fought against the ghosts of my past. I had questioned whether I deserved this, whether I was real or just the result of someone else's creation. But standing there, in front of the people who had tried to define me, I finally knew the answer. I straightened my posture, lifting my chin with quiet confidence. "I am Evelyn." My voice was steady, unwavering. "I am not an experiment. I am not a test subject. I am a woman. And I am real." Silence stretched through the room. Then, to my utter shock, Dr. Harper smiled. "Well done," she said softly, as if this was the answer she had been waiting for all along. The man at the panel nodded slowly. That's all we needed to hear. Relief crashed over me like a tidal wave. As I stepped out of the facility, the weight that had been pressing on my chest for so long finally lifted. The night air was cool against my skin, and for the first time, I truly felt like I belonged in my own body. I wasn't a government experiment anymore. I was me. Life didn't change overnight. There was no grand parade, no sudden moment where everything clicked into place. But in the weeks following my final evaluation, I felt something I never had before: peace. I woke up each morning as Evelyn, and it no longer felt like a role I was playing. It was simply who I was. The stares from strangers didn't bother me anymore. The whispers, the curiosity, I met them all with a quiet, unshakable confidence. I had fought too hard to be myself to let anyone take that away from me. Ava and I grew even closer. She pushed me to step outside my comfort zone, to live fully. We went shopping together, had late-night talks about life and love, and she introduced me to new friends who saw me for me, not for the past I had left behind. Dr. Harper still checked in on me, though not as a scientist evaluating her subject. She became something more, a mentor, a guiding presence. "I always knew you had it in you," she told me over coffee one afternoon. "But the real success of this experiment? That was your doing." Her words stayed with me. One evening, as I was getting ready for dinner with friends, I stood in front of the mirror, just as I had that night when I first saw Evelyn. But this time, there was no hesitation, no doubt. I smiled, adjusting the delicate chain around my neck. I had spent so much of my life wondering who I was supposed to be, searching for an answer in places that could never give it to me. But now I knew. I wasn't an experiment. I wasn't an illusion. I was Evelyn. And for the first time in my life, I was free. We spend so much of our lives searching for acceptance, for validation, for a place where we truly belong. But the truth is, the only acceptance that truly matters is our own. I was told I was an experiment, a creation molded by science. But no test, no transformation, no outside force could define who I was. Only I could do that. True identity isn't something given, it's something discovered, something claimed. No matter where you come from or what others expect of you, you have the power to decide who you are. It won't always be easy. There will be doubts, struggles, moments when fear tries to pull you back. But if you have the courage to step forward, to embrace yourself fully, then one day, you'll look in the mirror and see exactly what I see now: freedom.